Welcome back, Focus Learners. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for today's explainer. We're setting the stage for a highly tactical deep dive into building an incredibly resilient, synergistic machine in Magic: The Gathering. We're going to look at how to construct a flawless commander engine by mastering the precise rules of the game. So if you love structure, cause and effect loops, and literally maximizing your value on the battlefield, you are in exactly the right place.
All right, let's dive right into this. Meet the absolute star of our deck, the legendary Gorgon Wizard Tam, Observant Sequencer. She's a fascinating card from the Strixhaven universe that completely flips how we look at resource management. See, she doesn't just attack or block. She fundamentally operates as a mechanical engine that we can toggle on and off by leveraging some of the deepest rules in Magic.
Here's the blueprint for today's explainer. First, meet your Simic commander. Second, the rules of preparation. Third, fueling the engine, Landfall. Fourth, maximizing value with Magecraft. And finally, 5, the command zone advantage.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, Meet Your Simic Commander, focusing on those crucial deck construction rules.
So according to Magic's comprehensive rule 903.4, the commander variant uses something called color identity to determine exactly what cards are allowed in your deck. But here's the interesting part. Color identity isn't just that casting cost sitting up in the top right corner of the card. It actually includes the color of any mana symbols in that card's mana cost and in its rules text. This sets the absolute boundary for our deck building.
Thinking back to Tam for a second, notice her casting cost is 2 generic mana, 1 green, and 1 blue. But further down in her text box, her embedded Deep Sight spell costs 1 green and 1 blue. This firmly cements our deck in the Simic color identity, meaning we can exclusively use green, blue, and colorless cards. And honestly, if you're building around Tam, this is perfect. In Magic, the Simic combination is absolutely unparalleled when it comes to tactical card draw and accelerating our lands, which are the exact tools we're going to need.
Moving right along to Section 2, the rules of preparation. This right here is the engine's core. You see, the prepare keyword action is a highly specific, very literal sequence. First, a triggering event happens, causing the creature to become prepared. Second, you immediately create a copy of its associated spell right in the exile zone. Third, you get to choose to cast that copy while the creature remains prepared. And fourth, the very moment you cast it, the creature stops being prepared. It's just a beautiful self-contained loop.
Now, the really crucial point here is exactly where that spell sits. According to the Strixhaven release notes, as the creature becomes prepared, the copy is created in exile and it just safely waits there. Unlike copies that get put on the stack which can vanish into thin air, copies of prepare spells in exile do not cease to exist until state-based actions clear them out after they're cast. This is huge for us. It means we don't have to cast it immediately. We can actually hold on to it until the tactical timing is absolutely perfect.
Let's jump into Section 3, Fueling the Engine with Landfall, or as I like to think of it, unresponsible fuel.
Did you know that Comprehensive Rule 305.1 states that playing a land from your hand during your main phase is considered a special action? Well, what makes special actions so powerful? They don't use the stack. This means playing a land just happens. Your opponents absolutely cannot respond to it with instants or activated abilities. So the initial fuel for our engine hits the battlefields completely uncontested. No way around it.
And the exact moment that unrespondable land drops, it triggers Tam's specific ability, Landfall. Her card clearly states, whenever a land you control enters, Tam becomes prepared. So we seamlessly play a land that Landfall ability triggers, and suddenly, Tam has prepared her Deep Sight spell, placing a fresh copy of it safely in exile for us to use.
But wait, we have to be incredibly precise here. The Strixhaven release notes give us this critical ruling. A creature with a prepare spell can't become prepared more than once at the same time. Basically, if Tamala is already prepared, dropping another land isn't going to magically give you a second copy of Deep Sight. Therefore, the sequence rigidly dictates we must cast our Deep Sight spell before dropping another land. To pull this off, your deck absolutely needs clever ramp strategies, think cards like Cultivate or Harrow, tightly interwoven with your casting if you want to repeatedly trigger her ability.
All right, on to Section 4, Maximizing Value with Magecraft. This is where we get to the massive payoff. When we finally pull the trigger and cast that prepared copy of Deep Sight from exile, we get an immediate resource advantage. You draw a card and gain 1 life. And hey, drawing cards in Magic is fantastic. We all love doing it. But in the specific Simic engine, the actual text of Deep Sight is kind of just a nice bonus. The physical act of casting the spell is the real prize.
Enter Magecraft. This is a powerful keyword ability found heavily throughout the Strixhaven set.
It's a triggered ability that constantly watches the game state, and it fires off whenever you cast or copy an instant or a sorcery spell. Because Deep Sight is a sorcery, casting it is the ultimate trigger for a deck loaded up with Magecraft abilities.
Now you might be wondering, does casting a copy from exile actually count for Magecraft? The release notes definitively prove it does. They specifically cite the card Archmage Emeritus, stating his ability will trigger when those copies are cast from exile. That means every single time we turn the TM engine, we aren't just drawing one measly card from Deep Sight, we're triggering every single Magecraft permanent we currently control on the battlefield.
And this brilliantly illustrates the beautiful cause and effect loop we've been building. We take one simple, entirely uncounterable action, playing a land, that reaction cascades into a landfall trigger, which prepares Tom, which allows us to cast Deep Sight, which finally triggers a massive wave of Magecraft value. It's like a perfectly tuned machine.
Of course, your opponents aren't just going to sit there and politely watch you draw your whole deck. We always have to remember Rule 405 regarding the stack and priority. Whenever our Landfall or Magecraft abilities trigger, or when we cast Deep Sight itself, those go right onto the stack. We then pass priority, giving opponents a chance to respond. Because the stack resolves last in, first out, an opponent might try to destroy Talmarite right in response to a trigger. You absolutely must be prepared to use your blue counter spells or green protection spells to fiercely guard the stack. Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, the Command Zone Advantage. Let's talk about engine protection.
This is where the inherent resiliency of the Commander format truly shines. Under Rule 93, if Tam would be put into your graveyard or into exile, you can simply choose to return her to the command zone instead. From there, you can recast her, though it will cost an additional 2 generic mana for each previous time you've cast her from that zone.
That additional cost is informally known by all of us as the Commander Tax. But hey, remember our color identity? We're playing Simic. Green and blue absolutely excel at ramping, putting extra lands onto the battlefield to generate massive amounts of mana. This means our deck is naturally built to easily afford recasting Teferi multiple times. The engine is never truly destroyed, it's literally just offline temporarily until we pay the tax and drop our next land.
So we've laid out the rules, the precise sequences, and the crazy synergies. You know how to fuel the engine with Landfall and maximize the output with Magecraft. The blueprint is entirely yours now. So my final question to you is, how will you utilize your knowledge of priority in the stack to protect this delicate, high-value Simic engine in your next game? Take these mechanics into your next brewing session, and I promise you'll look at the game in a whole new way. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.